Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood-turning tools. Made by a wood-turner, for wood-turners. Well, I've got this beast off the lathe right now. I sanded the backside and I sanded the rim that I turned at the end of the episode, last episode. And if you didn't see that episode, I got lucky and found a piece of wood shaped just like this. Go hunt up the episode and watch it and you'll know how I got to this point. What we have to do now, though, is we want to turn this shape right here on the lathe, and it's going to be dished out slightly, but I'm going to go flat all the way across here because then we're going to inlay this nice piece of marquetry right there. That really pops out this wood. Teak is very, very hard, so it's a wonderful piece of wood to work with, but at the same time, it is pretty, but that really pops it. That makes it something special. Now remember, I said I was going to expand the jaws to hold this giant piece of wood, right? Well, see how this barely fits. I don't have any wiggle room in there. That's a perfect recess to take a chuck, because now when I expand this, oops, that's tightening. When I expand this, I don't have to turn it very far, and you can see that I'm making really good contact all along the jaws. If I had this really wide, it'd only be touching on the edges, so it'd be less strength there. Now this thing will hold on there forever. So we'll take this over here. We're down a few pounds now on the weight of this thing, by the way, too. And we'll thread this on here. If I can get it to go. Yeah, there we go. But we are still working with a big piece of wood, so speed is critical. We're not going to go very fast. And over here, we're going to clear out this wood. Now, we're only about 2 inches deep, so I want to be careful and use my calipers as I work along here to remove all of this. Now you could grab several different tools to move this wood away, but I'm going to start with an Easy Wood tool, and it's their smallest tip that they make. And again, we're going to bring this up probably no more than 250 RPM. It's still a big piece of wood, but you can see it spins much nicer now. Also, if you want to wear a face mask at this point, please do. Don't feel embarrassed if you do wear one, because something still could happen and you need all the protection you can get. Now you can see how easily this tool just moves into the wood. And on the other episode, you didn't see a lot of shavings coming off while I was turning with the bowl gouge. And that's because teak is a really, really hard wood, and it tends to want to chip a little bit. And the reason I didn't use this tool on the outside was because, on the backside, was because it's such a rough surface that it's easier to get a catch with a scraper than it would be with the bowl gouge. At least for me it is. But now, since I have a surface that's fairly well flattened out and all that excess weight and wobble's gone, this tool cuts beautifully. But this is just a process. I'm just stepping myself back. I'm going to work my way back to that edge right there, and that's going to be where our dish shape starts. Now remember, this is only 2 inches deep, like I said, so you don't want to go very deep. So I'm going to incrementally go in about a 1/4 inch at a time. The other important fact is that I want to have the bottom flat in this area, because that's where the marquetry is going to be inset into the wood. If I had it curving, then you'd have a weird transition between the platter and the marquetry. Now if you hear a little vibration, just back off and take a lighter cut, because as you get out towards the edge, it's going to have a little more harmonic to it. Wow, teak tastes wonderful. Now I've got myself down to where I want to start establishing the rim, but let me talk about the rim of the platter first. I turned this side while I was standing over here. before I reverse this. Now why? One, because the faceplate gave me a lot more structure, but also look, and here how out around that rim is? That's because this board is under a lot of stress. As I remove the wood, the lip starts to move. The rim starts to shape this way or that way. So it's kind of a little bit scalloped if you looked at it really, really closely, but you can't tell hardly. But when you're turning, you can. So if I just turned the back, turned this around, and tried to turn the lip, I would have had it out around and it wouldn't have been so great. It's easier to do it the other way. Now I haven't sanded this yet, that's okay, that's easy to do. But the other thing is, you can apply a finish to the back of this while it's on the lathe if you want to, but on a platter this large, I didn't want to do that either, because you add moisture to this lip is going to get even more out around and it's just going to be a problem. The thing I want to do now though is on the lip, I want to establish a drop down step, because it's going to step in. I just want a nice break there, and then we'll start our curve. So I'm going to take my parting tool, I'm just going to bring it in a scraper mode right here, and I'm just going to push it in, and I'm going to come back to a release cut. Again, very heavy wood, so I want to be careful. There we go. Push it in slowly. I want to go in about 1/4 of an inch here. So I'm going to take my time and do the release cut each time. Not so much that it's going to bind, but I don't want to wiggle the tool in my hands and get a catch like I did on the other side when I was working with it. So there we go. So we'll just keep going down with the little scraper here, the little carbide tip, and work our way down and try to start establishing a wall thickness of about a 1/2 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch. Now that is looking good. It's about a 1/2 inch thick. That might sound kind of thick, but remember I've got almost 1/4 of an inch cut out underneath that the chuck is in, so I'm going to wind up maybe close to 1/4 of an inch, and we're going to inset a piece of marquetry here, so that's going to get pretty skinny in a minute. The other thing I want to check is I'm just taking a straight edge and putting it up here, and you can see that I'm pretty nice and straight here. It starts to curve up on the edges, which is what I want, but you can, I don't know if you can see it, it's a little bumpy. I had to turn my old man light on so I could see the angles and see the shadows. Well, the way I want to smooth that out is I actually need to go up to a bigger tool, and this is my negative rake negative rake scraper. And negative rake means it's got this angle on top. You can see how it angles just a little bit. You don't have to do much. And then it's got about an 85-degree angle right there. And then there's a burr on here, because when I sharpen it, the wheel puts a little lip on here. And that's what helps us make a nice surface. So I'll turn this on. And this is going to take whispers of wood, and we're just going to clean up the surface and make it look real pretty. In this center, I don't have to worry about that, because we're going to turn that away, because the marquetry is going to cover that. So we're going to work our way from the edge in, and that gives us a supported cut as we go in, and I'm barely going to touch it. The nice thing about the negative rake is it's a very forgiving tool. If you put a scraper up here without the negative rake, you would have had a catch by now, and it would have blown up the whole platter. But this is just beautiful. As you can see, like I said, whispers of wood are coming off. And the cool thing is the finish that's on there right now is so smooth, I probably can start sanding at 240 grit. Yeah, it's nice. The other thing, when I was measuring with calipers, one way you can do this is just make sure all the screw holes are gone from the faceplate, and then you know you're deep enough. Don't leave those in, they're not really pretty. Anyway, we'll go back, and I'm just going to work this gently and take this down until it's really smooth. I'm adjusting my light right now, because when you sand, it's important that you have a light coming down at an angle so you can see the scratches and the places you have to sand. If the light was off, it would just look smooth. So now I can see the highlights. We're going to use an angle sander here, and actually drill. And on it I have a little chuck here. It's foam. It has Velcro on there, and then our Abranet discs have the other side of the Velcro, so we're just going to paste that on. I'm going to start with 80 grit and work my way through this. Obviously have my breathing protection ready. Getting a mask over a beard is not easy. But I tell you what, I'm sure this improves my profile online. People like this shot of me better than see me without it. Okay, so I'm going to bring this speed way down. Way down. Okay, that's way down. Bring it up a bit. This is probably about 50 RPM, a lot of feet per second, but you don't want it going so fast that you clog up the sandpaper and burn the wood. But the nice thing is with this, it's variable speed, so I can adjust how aggressive I am just by doing this or that. So I'll come up here, put this into my hip, and start working the edge. And if you have this spinning too fast, where it's out around, you're going to be skipping off the wood and not sanding every bit of it. So you do have to watch the speed for that reason too. But it's almost like roughing it out. You just want to keep doing movements with your body to keep this going. Don't stay in one spot or you'll get a groove in there. If I keep moving like this, I've got this really gentle curve in here, and it'll preserve that. So anyway, I'm going to work myself from 80 grit all the way to 320. And then we're going to move on to the marquetry. Now, as I work my way through the grits, I'm on 180 right now. I want to break the edge. And what I mean by that is this is a sharp edge right now on the platter. So at 180, I'm not going to take a lot of wood. I'm just going to come in here and just gently take off that sharp edge. That's just breaking the edge. Now it's not a little bit of round to it, so it's not sharp, it doesn't hurt you. The other thing you need to do every now and then is just take your air hose and blow off the dust that you've accumulated that's in the pores while you're sanding. And this is literally a piece of furniture. If you look at it, it's a big, large, flat piece of wood like a table. So you're going to wind up, it might be hard to see, but you're going to wind up with circular swirl marks and scratches and things from the rotation. What you have to do is every other grit or so, like 180 right now, I'm just going to sand by hand and go with the grain. The grain's running this way. And by sanding with the grain, it's just like a furniture maker. You take those scratches out, you don't see them. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to keep working my way through 320. And then we're ready to move on from doing this part. I have been looking for a long time to find a face mask that will seal on a beard, and 3M makes this one right here, which is nice. But the payoff is it looks like you've been in a knife fight because it fits so tightly. Yeah, me in a knife fight, right? That would really work. Okay, I'm going to get my cheaters on for this because this is marquetry over here. Marquetry is using different woods to make a pretty pattern, right? Well, obviously, I'm not skilled enough to do that, but there are some people out there who are skilled, and the people at digitalwood.com built that kit, and they also offer you other shapes that you can make. And it's really, really cool. Now, it's a square, but we'll get into that in a minute on how we're going to fix that problem. But this is something, after doing this, I kind of I was thinking, I'd be more than happy to pay 10 bucks more if this thing came assembled, but it doesn't. And it comes with all the pieces of wood, and they've been laser cut out of veneer, right? So this is walnut. This is, it looks like almost teak, but it's not quite. But somebody will tell me what that is. I'm sure I'll get an email on that. That looks like wenge right there. And there's some purple heart, which is really cool. So you can sand this stuff. You just want to be careful how much you sand. If you sand anything, do it around 220 grit. You have the outline now, which you can see back there how this all works. So we're putting it together like so. The first thing you want to do is take this sheet of tacky paper, and speaking of dust earlier, you want to make sure you've cleaned up your area before you do this, because you don't want dust getting on any of this stuff because it's adhesive, it's tacky, and that would just get in the way. And I cut my fingernails this morning, so if I can get this started, I will. Ah, jeez. I need to hire somebody who can do this. Okay. I'm going to just take this. This does not have to be precise. This little sticky paper goes on the wood side that's facing up. So you want the pretty part facing up when you do this. You put it on there, and I'm just going to pull this and bring it across. All this is doing is it's covering the holes, so when we flip this over now, we can start taking these pieces out of here. And when you take a piece out, make sure the wood side goes down, and then you got to find out where the heck it goes. There we go. And it goes in right there. You just want to make sure it snaps in, that it's flush when you push it in. And now that adhesive's holding that in there so it can't fall out. See? That's how that works. So there are about, I don't know, 100 or more pieces on this. And like I said, I'd pay more if it came already assembled. But I'm gonna put this together. One cool thing they did, by the way, there's an extra piece for every shape in here. So if you do something stupid and break it, you got some backup. I thought that was really nice of them to do that. The other thing is if a tab hangs on, the tab won't let you push it in. So I'm going to take my blade here and just cut that off. See, now it's flush like so. If this snaps, see, I kind of snap that one. It really doesn't matter because it'll still go in. And what will happen in a minute is we're going to put a backer board on here which has stronger adhesive, so that's going to hold everything in place there. Well, so if you're fortunate enough to have children or grandchildren, now's a good time to tell them the story about how one kid taught people how to paint his fence for him. You know what I'm talking about, Tom Sawyer. So, hey, look at this. Isn't this fun? Help me out. Let them do all this work, and you don't have to, because I'm putting in the big pieces right now. Wait till I get down to these little tiny suckers. You think my fingers are going to handle that? Well, they do. I used tweezers earlier, but anyway, this will take a while. Go flat, flat. There you go. Okay. That was easy, wasn't it? I think I'm beginning to get arthritis or something from that. Anyway, now that we're to this point, you take this and you got to attach it to this backer board, which is very helpful because we need that for the installation process. So what you do with it is, once again, you have to peel something, and you peel it back about 1 inch to 2 inches. This is the stickiest stuff, okay? So you got to be careful here. So I'm going to fold that like that so I've got a lip, right? Now we take this and we're going to try to center it up on there. If I can do this right. Do that edge with my fingers and do that. It doesn't have to be perfect. The people who use this are inlaying this in something, so oftentimes they want this to be perfect. We're going to make a circle out of it, so we're pretty good. A little fidgety. Okay, I do want this as close to the center as possible because it'll help us on the lathe. You don't want to bend this too much, but you start pulling the paper out then, right? And just push down with your hand as you do it. Now, okay, so that's on there really good. Now, the next step you're going to love and you're not going to believe. We're going to have to use the floor. Oh, by the way, speaking of the floor, make sure when you do this that you clean the floor before you do it, because if you drop that, you're in a world of hurt. When is the last time you did this to a project? This is what they recommend you do, that you literally stand on it. I've never stood on a turning before. But anyway, I'm supposed to just stand here and move around for 2 more minutes. This will be fun. Now I'm drawing from corner to corner like I would do a blank of wood if I was going to try to find a center on it, because I want to find the center on this piece of wood here. That's why it's important if you can get your marquetry centered on this blank when you put it on. It'll help you stay centered, if that makes any sense. We're going to be using a faceplate, a 4-inch faceplate with double stick tape to hold this. And so I'm putting my compass right here. And I'm going to draw a circle real quick. And that will help me center this like so. And then we'll take it to the lathe and make sure that everything's centered up. I'll show you one thing right here we can do right now. This is cool. We can take this part off and just peel it slowly, and you reveal all that beautiful wood. And when you put a finish on here, this is incredible looking. So it really is worth all that effort. You're making something that you really couldn't make yourself in your shop probably. Now I've been messing with this just a little bit. I lightly stuck this to the double-sided tape, and then I started spinning it around. You can be about a 1/16 of an inch off and no one will notice. See, that's barely off, but to the eye you won't be able to see that much. So what I'm going to do is pick up the speed here, and we're going to use our skew, and we're going to use the point down to make a cut. What I want to do is put a plunge cut in about, ½ inch, a little more than that, into the wood right there, and then come back here on this edge and start going at an angle. That first plunge cut you make could tear the grain of the wood a little bit, so that's why I'm making the border a little wide right now. If I find out that it did tear, I'll move the border in. But right now what we want to do is just work on getting the extra wood off right here. An interesting thing with this, when you cut wood like this, it doesn't fly out at you. It goes back onto the faceplate behind it, so it's going to push back. So don't worry about this. I would say you could wear a face mask. Matter of fact, I'm wearing my cheaters. I'm going to put these on top. My cheaters are safety glasses, but these are bigger, so it gives me a little more protection. And now I just doubled my magnification too, which is great. Now I can really see. There we go. This is some sort of MDF or pressed board back in there, almost like a cardboard. So we're getting close. And it will dull your skew quickly. So you're good for parting this off one time, and then you're going to have to sharpen before you clean up the edge. There we go, one more cut. There we go. Well, it came off a little more spectacularly than I thought it would. That's the first time it's done that. So it's always good you do wear things to keep yourself safe. But anyway, let's stop this and look at the edge now. And you can see the grain is not torn. So this is really good. All I want to do now is bevel this edge back so it's wider on the top than it is on the bottom. So when I fit it into the hole we're going to cut on the platter, that it'll fit nice and tight. Well, I've mounted the platter back on the lathe, and I've been taking down the surface a little bit with a square nose scraper. And you can see right there that line, that is the diameter of the marquetry I'm going to put in there. And I'm going to sneak up on that line. But you can see it's torn. The grain tears when I use the carbide tip scraper. So the cut I'm going to want to make that nice and clean is with my skew. Just like we did when we used the other piece over there, the marquetry, when we parted it off, this tip will make a nice clean entry and it'll keep from tearing the grain. This is a very critical cut because if you take too much wood off, you're going to have to turn this platter again so you get the marquetry to fit. And you don't want to have to go through all that trouble. So I just made that little etching, and we'll come in here like so. And we're going to work our way up to that line. There we go. Now we're right there. Now I guarantee you this will not fit right now, but we're going to check it just to make sure, because I want to make sure over and over and over again. And don't put it on this way because you chamfered this edge. It goes in. Take it this way so you know the widest point, and there you go. And see, it's not even fitting yet, but we're within about 1/16 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep working my way over and over and get that to fit perfectly. Once it fits perfectly, then I'm going to deepen it down enough so the marquetry sits flush with the platter. That again is why we have this flat, so it'll all look nice and clean line when we're done. So I'll put this back up here, and I'm going to come back in, and we'll just keep doing this. Trial and error. Well, hopefully trial, no error. If there's an error, we're in trouble. We'll be doing a part 3 to this thing. Tiny cuts. Okay, after a little bit of trial and no error, by the way, we got this the way we want it. I didn't mention, the reason I was going 1/16 of an inch deep when I first did this hole, if I screwed up and made this too wide, I could take a 1/16 of an inch off of here and then start all over, and that wouldn't be bad. Let's see how this fits. See, perfect fit. You can't even tell a seam there, right? Now, if this rises up just a little bit proud, you can sand this down later because this is solid wood, so you can blend those edges. That's not bad. The other thing, as far as positioning, see how my grain is running this way? I want to get the grain in the white here, in the lighter wood, in the maple, to run the same way so it looks like it's one piece of wood. So anyway, I'll get that. I'm going to take some Titebond 3 wood glue and glue this in here and then clamp it up. And once we've done that and it's dried, we're going to put a finish on. So tell me, Dr. Tim, what are you going to finish this with? We're going to use Danish oil. And I love it because it gives that nice, soft, satiny sheen. But also the people who make the marquetry recommend that also. So I guess it soaks into the wood. It works well with that whole setup. So I've got a lint-free cloth here, and I'm going to soak this, whoa, and spill it. Because you can't use too much here. But look at that incredible color change now. Isn't that amazing? This is a really, really cool project. So I'm going to put a couple coats of Danish oil on here. You let it soak in for a little bit, you rub it off, you put another one on there. And I got to tell you, this has been a lot of fun this season, and I really appreciate all you viewing. We work hard on these, and to get the feedback from you has been really nice to hear and nice to see. So until the next season of wood turning, keep turning.
Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood turning tools. Made by a wood turner for wood turners.